Welcome to True Health Tuesdays, and the truth will set you free. That's the best Charlton Heston impression I could do. Okay, so we're talking again tonight about hormones, but also about lupus, because when we talk about autoimmune diseases, particularly when you look at diseases that don't have a cause, they don't know what causes it, they don't know the solution, they don't know anything. So it's really a change in communication. But now, I gave this talk in Colorado this past weekend, and people are confused now, because if you're getting most of your information from the media, you actually think that the society knows what they're doing, that the doctors are well educated and everything else. Well, if that's true, if they're working on a paradigm that they're going to keep everyone healthy, then we should have the healthiest population on the planet. When we're talking about autoimmune diseases, 1 in 5 people will develop it. And imagine if you had a herd of 100 deer and 20 of them are going to develop an autoimmune disease. Would we think that, wow, that herd is just genetically defective? You know, we have no idea what's going on with that herd. Or would we go in and say, hey, what's causing it? Okay, so now, if you think that our society knows what's going on, what about cancer? You see the pink ribbons everywhere. You know, we're right around the cure for cancer, right around the corner. You know, in fact, we have this new experimental drug that's amazing. We just want you to try it. Have you heard of this? Yeah, for 80 years they've been studying it. Now, 80 years you've been studying a disease process and you haven't found the virus, fungus, bacteria, any pathogen that causes it. We just don't know the cause, but we know that we can, you know, treat it. Now, Lancet says it really well. The obsession with cure of advanced disease rather than prevention of early disease. They're never going to find the cure, because the cause is a toxic deficient lifestyle. With a 300% increase in breast cancer rates in the last 32 years, do you see this on TV to say, hey guys, we're really screwing up. We're just drugging people and not knowing the cause? That doesn't make any sense. With our population, I know what you're thinking, Doc, that this means 46% of the kids don't have a chronic illness or disease. There's always a positive guy in the audience. You gotta like that. Yeah, but 54%, that means they're not healthy. And when look at the kids, bowel disorders, allergies, eczema, I mean, this is ridiculous in children. And again, when we're talking about hormones, there's a problem with communication, but it's not just communication. I mean, we can go back 100 years ago when this stuff wasn't here. It's a problem with the entire system. See, the system is based on the germ theory, that germs cause disease. And Lancet, and this was about 40 years ago, talks about how the germ theory, it's become dogma. And the germ theory is that germs cause disease. And Pasteur and Beauchamp at the time when they were, you know, just discovering these little, what were called animalcules, these little tiny things. And they were saying there's no way this little tiny animal could harm a full-grown human. But then they realized that, oh my gosh, tuberculosis had this. And then Koch developed Koch's postulate. So you can find the pathogen that was affecting a disease. You could grow the pathogen, infect a healthy host, and have that host develop the same disease. So they started to figure that it was these pathogens. So they developed this whole germ theory that germs cause disease, except it's not true. And I was talking to a doctor about a year ago at one of your conferences, Doc, and I said, look, you know, it's not germs that cause disease. And he said, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. What if 10 people walk through a swamp, they all get bitten by malaria-containing mosquitoes? Are they all going to get malaria? Well, no. So what's the difference? It's the immune system. So this theory of germs causing disease is not true. So when you're looking for lupus, when you're looking for cancer, when you're looking for all of these different diseases, the entire dogmatic approach in the medical world is to find the one thing, okay? And so this is what the entire structure is built on, the biomedical model. And this was done in the British Medical Journal. They say the biomedical model of illness is based on all illness has a single underlying cause. Okay, and so if you can't find the one cause to lupus, then it doesn't exist. If you can't find the one cause to cancer, the etiology is unknown. All disease results from a single cause, so we have to keep looking for that. Okay, and removal or attenuation of the disease will result in return to health. This means that a healthy body is attacked by this stuff, and you develop a disease. They're not talking about a sick body attracting this, that diseases are already here. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we're going to look at tonight. Because evidence exists that all three of these assumptions are wrong. Absolutely they're wrong. Even Pasteur, on his deathbed, says it wasn't the pathogens, it's the terrain. So when we look at lupus, and again, we're talking about hormones this whole month, but I want you to look at lupus in a different fashion, that it's a miscommunication. So the symptoms are all over the place: swelling in the joint, muscle pain, fever just randomly, rashes, hair loss, purple fingers, toes. Now when I look at this, swelling in the joints, inflammation is not a demon attacking you, okay? It's not a three-headed dragon. When you hear swelling, inflammation, that's a body's response to regenerate tissue. So there has to be tissue destruction before inflammation. Okay? Now this is a hard concept to get. Muscle pain, so that means there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the signals from the muscle or how it works with. A fever, for every 1 degree increase in temperature, the speed of your immune system doubles. So this is an attempt of the body to regenerate tissue, to restore the nervous system or restore the immune system response. Red rashes, okay, that's the body trying to get rid of toxins. Chest pain when you're taking a deep breath, that's inflammation of the bronchus. You look at hair loss, that's a chronic stress state or an adrenal dominant state where the body isn't going to regenerate tissue. Pale or purple fingers or toes, that's a vasodilation and constriction. So again, that's a nervous system response. And you start looking at this and go, my God, that's a body that's being hurt, that's doing everything to repair. So what does the Mayo Clinic say? They say it's a chronic inflammatory disease. Anytime you hear chronic inflammatory disease, we're going to change that conversation right now to say it's tissue damage. Because if you say, man, it's that inflammation, okay, then you're going to think something's attacking you and you're going to try and take an anti-inflammatory or a steroid or something. But if you go, it's that tissue damage, wow, then fix it. What damaged the tissue? Okay, does that make sense? It's a radical change in thought, but now, according to the Mayo Clinic, joint, skin, kidney, blood, brain, heart, lungs, all of these organ systems are affected. I want you to remember those organs. Yes, there will be a quiz in the end. No, I want you to remember these organs that are involved because they have to do with how the body's responding and what's actually attacking the body. According to the National Institute of Health, the causes are unknown. Because they're still in that biomedical model of looking for the one cause, And then you start looking at this, you know, genetics. I mean, I did a post this morning on, you know, that we're going to talk about lupus, that we're going to talk about the causes and the solutions, causes and solutions. And this person goes in there, it's genetics. People are being born with it now. Really, you're a slave to your genetics. So I typed in a couple of articles that I'm going to share with you later that it's not genetics. There's a difference between genetic and genetic expression. Even the Mayo Clinic says, maybe genetics, we're not quite sure, we don't know what it is, but we know medications can cause it, like seizure medications, blood pressure, antibiotics, a whole host of medications can lead to these symptoms. Sunlight's dangerous. Infections can have it. I know, don't worry about this. This population is brand new on this planet. We've never been exposed to the sun. So Okay, so when we look at genetics, let's look at the difference between genetics and genetic expression. It's a radical difference. When you look at the Human Genome Project, you're talking over 20 years of development looking to identify the gene. And since we produce about 100,000 proteins, they were figuring that they're going to find about 100,000 genes, which is great. So this way you identify the gene, you could build a drug to stop that gene. So this way, 100,000 drugs that you can give to healthy people. Okay, so I mean, profit-wise, it's ridiculous, outrageously good. Except they found out that we have a little bit more genes than a fruit fly. And so it's like, wait a second, how does this work? How do we have this little tiny DNA double helix with so many genes, but it produces such a variety of proteins? So there's got to be control above the genes. Above the genes. So they call it epigenetic control. And Dr. Manolis Kellis, he's saying that they're looking at over 150 billion factors that can affect gene expression. So here we go from 100,000 genes to 150 billion influences that can change the genetic expression. So it's not genes, it's gene expression, okay? And if someone says, wow, your lupus is genetic. Okay, then can you go in to any doctor and say, well, doc, Jesus, I can name 15 relatives that don't have it. Okay? You know what that's called? Bam! Okay. Now, this is interesting. When we're talking about hormones, we're talking about it's a communication pathway. In Royal Society, they talk about disease is a miscommunication or a mismanaged, disorganized epigenome control above the genome that's expressing the disease. So now this makes sense. So what's causing it? Now, this is a new theory. It's called the antiphospholipid antibody theory. And this is, again, something that's attacking the body, that the body is just messed up. We're not looking for any environmental cause. Okay, in psycho world, we're only looking at the genes that are expressed based on the body attacking itself. And so something's attacking the phospholipids. And I remember back in microbiology, phospholipids, almost every cell in your body has this phospholipid membrane. So what could possibly be attacking your own cells? Again, I'm going on the theory, not the biomedical model of illness that, you know, you're weak, sick, and you shouldn't be on this planet and only, you know, germs are attacking you. But what's the cause of these antibodies produced to the outside covering of the cells? It just doesn't make any sense. Now the symptoms, stroke, TIAs, rash, neurologic symptoms, bleeding, there's a bunch of symptoms from this. So then I thought, could the body be exposed to industrial phospholipids? You know, so if your body has all these outside coverings of cells called phospholipids, and the body is only going to mount a defense or create antibodies if they recognize a foreign thing. So where is that miscommunication that causes the body to start saying, hey, wait a second, these phospholipids that have been around me for my entire eternity and my genetic, you know, memory has always been around these phospholipids, how can the body possibly attack itself? It's impossible unless we look at industrial phospholipids. Go on, I know. Wow! Wait a second. We're introducing these phospholipids into the system that are kind of similar to our cells? What could they be used for? Well, industrial produced. They're in foods, nutrition, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, drug delivery, all the stuff that we're exposed to now. And the reason they're using it, and this is amazing, phospholipids in industrial production, so when you get that beautiful hunk of black chocolate and you flip it over and it says soy lecithin, bummer, that's a phospholipid that if you have a leaky gut, it can get into the bloodstream and your body can start developing antibodies for it. So then you say, okay, I'm going to have to get that raw chocolate. Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to get some, you got to read the label. But why do they do these? See, why do they put industrial phospholipids into these products? Well, they can be split to produce more things, but they're signal messengers in transduction. That means that these phospholipids can actually attach to the outside of that phospholipid membrane, which is on the outside of all the cells, and it can change what happens in the cell. So this is magical. I mean, this can stimulate certain neuron cells, depression. So you can take a frozen chicken McNugget, put some neurotoxins in there, microwave it, heat it up, deep fry it in these genetically modified oils, which are loaded with phospholipids, and dip it in a sauce with, again, neurotoxins, and call it a chicken nugget, and kids will love it. Okay, now this is also the precursor to prostaglandins. Now, prostaglandins is the building product of cartilage. So now, when instead of this unknown cause, we're looking at this new thing that's introduced into our drugs, chemicals, and everything else called phospholipids, even though it's something we've been around for so long, and it's causing the body to affect the nerves, okay, affect cell production, and affect joints. Interesting. Now, here's the Journal of Lupus. Now, they're talking about, again, we're looking at an autoimmune condition, but you can correlate this with almost every autoimmune condition. A dose-dependent combination of environmental exposures to estrogenic hormones and genetic predisposition is thought to be required. Now, when we look at it, DNA methylation, so again, there's a problem with the cells, and autoreactive cytotoxic pro-inflammatory cells. So then, pro-inflammatory cells, does that mean that the cells just start to create inflammation, or does that mean the cells are damaging tissue? It's damaging tissue. Now, again, going on this, they're talking about drugs that can cause it, diet, oxidative stress, smoking, UV light, and estrogens augment the disease. Is that why 90% of the people suffering this are having it? And also, when we look at this, so they're saying we know the cause. It's environmental toxins that's negatively affecting the body. I don't know why the National Institute of Health doesn't have the ability to read, but this would, I'm sorry, that was sarcasm. Okay, I know you get it. Okay, but I mean, this is pretty clear. Okay, so when you look at this, let's look at the basic problem here. We've got two communication pathways. We've got the nervous system, which has that sympathetic, parasympathetic. That means that if your body is in a stress, that's physical, chemical, or emotional stress, that sympathetic is activated. And that's going to shut blood supply down to the gut. It's going to dilate your pupils. It's going to increase blood supply or blood sugar. The liver's going to start breaking blood glycogen down to glucose. You're going to elevate the heart rate. You're going to elevate blood pressure. I mean, all of this stuff under a stress state. At nighttime, the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, and also during the day, because we got to have a balance, and that regenerates the tissue. And this is how the body electrically communicates. Now, chemically, organs, tissue to cells, you have the hormone system. Now, you've got the hypothalamus that has a foot in both worlds. It's got a foot in the nervous system world, so it can gauge whether your body's under stress or health, or danger or production, and then it sends messages out so that all of these chemical messengers can cause the body to respond correctly to the environmental stimulus. Does that make sense? So if you're under stress, your body has to respond a certain way, and if you're in growth and repair, it has to respond in a certain way. Now, there's two types of hormones. You got water-soluble that are mainly made out of amino acids. And I know what you're thinking, under stress, wouldn't that decrease the stomach acid and break down the availability of the amino acids? You're right. So that might negatively affect hormone production. What are you, a scientist? Okay, then you got fat-soluble hormones mainly made out of cholesterol. So this is where all the glucocorticosteroids, the mineral corticosteroids are, the sex hormones. I mean, in fact, most of the fat hormones are all made out of cholesterol. So when you look at this, you think, well, wait a second, that's why the body is designed to have 80% of your total overall cholesterol produced by your liver, because it's needed. Maybe that's why 50% of your brain has to be cholesterol. So maybe we're under a stupid system that's second-guessing the body's intelligence based on a theory that these levels have to be the same for everyone. Now, if you think we know everything, we don't. This happens to be a brilliant relative of mine. You know, if anyone compliments your kids, what do you say? Yeah, that's my kid. Okay, this is my nephew. Okay, he was published on May 1st in Cell Metabolism. He co-discovered new processes and new communication pathways for cells. I know. Okay, yeah, he's cool. But think of this. We're discovering this now. I mean, there's still some real scientists out there that are looking for different things, and he's one of them. So now, when we're talking about these diseases, where it really is an interruption in communication, from either the nervous system is misinterpreting a signal, or the brain is creating these chemical messengers called hormones, and that's misinterpreting the signal. So what kind of things disrupt this communication? They're called endocrine disruptors. When we look at this, we know the phospholipids, that's in chemicals and everything else, but also these endocrine disruptors, food, cosmetics, vaccines, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, it's all over. No wonder we're seeing this rash of diseases. So let's go back, and I showed this slide before, but this is really, really important. One of the first synthetic estrogens ever found was in 1938. It's called DES. And this was passed out from 1940 to 1971, in 1978 in Europe. And it was supposed to help with complications to pregnancy, miscarriage, premature labor. Now, they passed it out for all these years. They found out in the 50s that it wasn't good at any of this stuff. They just keep passing it out. First synthetic estrogen. Then it turns out that the kids, the mothers that took this drug, their kids developed higher rates of cancers, you know, adenocarcinomas, birth defects as well, all these other things. And then it found out the kids of the kids, okay, affected higher cancer rates. And then it affected the third generation. So we're looking at so built in the 38, okay, passed out from the 40s to the 70s, and it affects 3 generations. Okay, what are we seeing with the BT corn, the toxins in corn now? That's not fed to human beings. That it has to survive the cow's digestion, gets embedded in the meat, survives the mom's digestion, and we're seeing BT toxins in children of the mothers that ate it. We're seeing this generationally in our society, where the things that we're doing today are negatively affecting our offspring. Now, so this is literally the 3rd generation, possibly increased risk of infertility of the 3rd generation daughters, increased birth defects, exposure, increased ovarian cancer rates. I mean, this is huge. Now that's one, not the 87,000 chemicals that are now being consumed by our population. This was just one. Now, when we look at what kind of things control, what kind of things are part of that 150 billion things that can affect gene expression? Well, we know all medications. So this means cholesterol drugs. I know what you're thinking. Well, wait a second, cholesterol drugs, didn't we need half of our hormones? All the lipid hormones are made out of cholesterol. And if we're ignorantly lowering or arrogantly, I guess both. I'm trying to work up, you know, something politically correct, but it's not really there. But if the doctor is actually smarter than your physiology, which has been here for a long time, and he is prescribing a cholesterol drug, and you don't have the available materials to build the chemical messengers that communicate organ to tissue cell, do you think you can end up with negative results? Yes or yes? Yes. Yes. Okay. So this talks about blood pressure drugs, diuretics, methotrexate, anti-inflammatories, Motrin, Advil, Aleve. All of these can cause these diseases because they have a control above the genes. Why do they have a control above the genes? They're going to control genetic expression, and they're interrupting that communication from the organ to the tissue cell. Consequences for modern medicine are profound, since it will imply their current understanding of pharmacology is an oversimplification. So why are they teaching this in school? Why are they not teaching that the body is smart and adaptive? So let's just look at just one of these medications, because again, in this society where it's symptom drug, that's the biomedical model of illness. You have a symptom, we're going to give you a chemical to change that symptom. Okay, not an appreciation. Now, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs can cause intestinal damage, but they don't know why it does. Just take it. Altered lipid composition. Remember, we're talking about that phospholipid, antiphospholipid. So anything that damages the intestinal tract, that's not good. Now, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. I'm talking over the counter. Advil, Motrin, Aleve, the stuff that you have in your cupboard, I hope not. Okay, kidney damage, skin damage, cardiovascular damage, gastrointestinal damage. Oh, didn't I ask you to look at that list of areas of the body that are negatively affected when you're diagnosed with lupus? And by the way, do you know any definitive test that shows you have lupus? No. They're looking at inflammatory factors, elevated ESR rates. They're looking at certain inflammatory aspects. But again, what's inflammation? Tissue damage. Okay. I know, I'm going to make it really easy. Okay, so instead of inflammation, think about the tissue damage, that's what's causing this. So you get a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. Inflammation is the repair process of the body. It damages all these organs. Then we have more endocrine disruptors. You want the pink stuff or blue stuff at Starbucks, okay? Also, these stuff break down if it heated over at 86 degrees to formaldehyde. So formaldehyde is in many vaccines. So now we have endocrine disruptors in vaccines. We look at birth control. What's birth control? It's almost pure estrogen. Sometimes they'll do estrogen and progesterone, but I mean, this is an endocrine disruptor. Why? Because it's disrupting the process of that impregnation and holding on to the kid. This is a powerful thing. Increased breast cancer rates, and you got to figure there's going to be tumors, cysts, fibroids. It's all over the place. If you second guess the body by taking a drug to lower your blood pressure, because what's the advertisement? Blood pressure is the silent killer. Why don't we tell you correctly? Why doesn't the medical profession tell you correctly? Your blood pressure is high. Okay, the official cause is unknown. We know that that's a normal stress response, but since I'm smarter than your body, I'm going to give you a diuretic, a beta blocker, and an ACE inhibitor. Okay, what? Do you think that's arrogant, miss? Is that why you're coughing? No, it is. It's crazy. To second guess your body, it doesn't make any sense. So when you look at this one, if each blood pressure drug you take, your risk of stroke increases. I know what you're thinking, didn't they say that high blood pressure is the silent killer, so that's why you're taking this drug? We want to raise the issue that despite great advances in pharmaceutical approach, yeah, because they actually achieve their goal, relying solely on this approach is going to come at a dear price of people's lives. Then you look at this, cholesterol drugs, which are designed to lower cholesterol levels. I know cholesterol is 50% of your brain. It's also the main component of most of the hormones, that communication pathway. If you take this drug to lower cholesterol, it works. It lowers cholesterol. It also increases hardening the arteries and heart failure. The cholesterol drugs also decrease heart muscle function. It also increases plaquing of the arteries. We can put up here also that it causes increased cancer rates. It weakens the immune system. And in fact, the Journal of the American Medical Association, that utilizing this biomedical model of illness, which is really cookie cutter, if you have a list of symptoms, I'm going to put it in this algorithm, based on those symptoms and your lifestyle, okay? I have a whole list of drugs that I can give you. However, that list of drugs, if you die, it's okay, because my ass is covered, because I'm following appropriate protocol and standards of care. Now, if you look at the Journal of the American Medical Association, the right drug at the right time and the right dosage kills 128,000 people a year. That's not the mess ups. Okay, this is the stuff done correctly. based on this dysfunctional biomedical model. Why? Because these drugs interrupt that communication pathway that's taken, you know, eons. The Journal of Law and Medicine Ethics, Institutional Corruption of Pharmaceuticals and the Myth of Safe and Effective Drugs. Is there such a thing as a benign drug that's going to interrupt that brain-to-body communication? Anyone? If we have 10 people and I give them a benign drug, could one of them have a negative effect?
Yes.
The pharmaceutical industry has corrupted the practice of medicine through its influence of what drugs are developed and how they are tested and how medical knowledge is created. Why? It's for profit. It's not for health. What about autism? Are people really being born with autism now that they never have been in our entire millennium? Is it just better diagnosed? Or do we have a problem with 1 in 28 of our male children are never going to be productive again? They can't hold down regular jobs. Their brains are distorted. What causes it according to Environmental International? Again, endocrine disruptors, pesticide, phthalates, BPAs, solvents, air pollutants, fragrances. I'm going to do a little thing on Febreze too. That's amazing. Glyphosates, aluminum in vaccines. When we look at this, the HPV vaccine that's now has a number of lawsuits. If you look at a video called Sacrificial Virgins, it's going to drive you crazy because these young kids, they're afraid of cancer and the parents are afraid of cancer. So they're trusting the medical system, and it turns out if you get this vaccine, you have increased damage. Could be fertility, could be everything else. I mean, this right here, endocrine disruptors. They create a Th2 or an inflammatory response. If you go through this program here of 69 doses of 16 different vaccines, think of 3 B's and an S. They're going to have behavioral, bowel, breathing, or skin. And that's the lucky ones. Why? Because this causes, we have an immune system with, you know, let's boil it down to 2 basic responses. Th1, which is cellular and humoral. This has to be stimulated by some type of pathogen hitting the mucous membranes. That causes histamines to be released in your body, develop a defense so good you can pass it on. I know what you're thinking. Well, couldn't we take an estrogen from 1938 and pass it on to our generations? You're right. Okay, that would be a bad thing. So this is how grandma and everybody protected you. I mean, have you seen how good that scarlet fever vaccine worked when scarlet fever was killing everyone? Oh, there wasn't one. Okay, you're right, you're right. It was just sanitation, water, refrigeration, healthy immune system. Okay. Now, Th2 response is what the vaccines do. They trigger an inflammatory response in the body. This inflammation is tissue damage. That's what it does. Now, studies haven't been done to say that this is safe. A few weeks ago, I put a small segment on our Facebook of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, how they just approved a new hepatitis B shot for adults. I say new because it is a brand new adjuvant that's never been used in conjunction with other vaccines. Now, it does cause an increased heart attacks in the population. And I know you can't really sue for that anymore because the vaccine companies, their product is inherently unsafe according to the Supreme Court. But knowing that it's going to be injected in the population that's untested, they're doing a post-marketing surveillance. This should make you feel really good. And it'll be out in about 2020 to see if the vaccine has killed a lot of people. So they're right on. Don't worry, they got your covered. Let's look at vaccines and lupus. And again, we're just talking about lupus, but if you look at lupus, has the overall a miscommunication, a communication pathway that's been interrupted, and the body's doing everything it can to adapt. During the last decade, increasing numbers of reports regarding possible autoimmune effects in vaccination. We look at, however, rare reactions such as hypersensitivity-induced infection and autoimmunity do occur and can be severe and fatal. The question of connection between vaccinations and autoimmune illness is surrounded by controversy. Why? Why is it controversial? Why are we doing this to interrupt that immune system response? Why? It can't just be for profit and from pure ignorance. Again, even though the data regarding the relationship between vaccination and autoimmune disease is conflicting, it seems that some autoimmune phenomena are clearly related to immunizations. Seems to. Unless you look at the Journal of Autoimmunity. They say that absolutely a large series of autoimmune conditions have been reported. When you look at the label of HPV, it says that it can cause lupus and autoimmune conditions. Why? What about that antiphospholipid series, you know, that syndrome, antiphospholipids? How did the body create antibodies towards itself? Oh, that's right. We're getting something kind of similar into an area that the body's immune system is going to recognize as a pathogen, then we mount a defense to it. Wow, doesn't that sound kind of like vaccines? Okay, interesting. So perhaps that's why we're doing an abnormal pathway on a modified pathogen with a number of different adjuvants that's triggering an inflammatory response, that's causing our immune system to go crazy, that's not studied to see if it's safe or efficacy, if the efficacy level is there, that's said by the Supreme Court that it's inherently unsafe. What about endocrine disruptors? Okay, when we look at this, what do endocrine disruptors do? They trigger an inflammatory response. So now you're going to say, well, wait a second. When he put up that slide of the personal hair products, the environmental, you know, the air sprays and all that other stuff, that those things can interrupt that communication pathway and cause inflammation too, or tissue damage? Absolutely. Endocrine disrupting chemicals and disease susceptibility dramatically alter disease susceptibility later in life. So this isn't something you take now or get exposed to and develop a disease now. We're talking multiple generations down. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, again, BPAs, DDT, crazy stuff. I mean, they block or mimic hormone action. So the doctor of the future is going to do something totally different. The doctor of the future isn't going to look at your symptoms. He's going to look at your whole body, ask everything. What you're looking at here in the middle picture, that's the before, and on the right is the abdominal x-ray. You're actually looking at what we see as a leaky gut. The abdomen is just distorted, okay? And we'll see this in 8 and 10-year-old children now. I mean, the Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease. We're seeing all of this stuff there. I mean, you can see on the side over here, there's a normal curve on the bottom and a forward head carriage on the top. And she had forward head carriage stress states, physical, chemical, emotional stress, and her body was being destroyed. So what do you do? What do you do in this environment of ignorance? Ignorance of the awareness that your body is adapting to a toxic deficient environment with inflammation, with a fever, with high blood pressure, with high cholesterol. These are all adaptive physiologic responses. They're not diseases. And in fact, if you think that you are smarter than your body and you take the cholesterol drugs and you take the blood pressure drugs and you take the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and you take the vaccines because you're just scared and you think this guy really knows what the heck he's doing who's giving you these drugs, your health declines. So what can you do now? I mean, you could say, wow, I made in the image and likeness of God, just like those 3 books. Okay. God looks pretty like these 2 girls at the front. Okay, but when you look at this, what do? For one, you got to have a healthy nerve supply. Remember that 2 different pathways? We got the electrical system, the nervous system, and then the hormone system. The nervous system you can keep clear. And so how do we can do that by getting it checked. How do we check the hormonal system? Well, for one, if you're taking drugs, find out why you're taking them. You're in a dysfunctional biomedical model that doesn't work, that kills 128,000 people a year if they do it correctly. If you're taking the right drug at the right time and the right dosage. Okay, I mean, if you're taking multiple drugs, you understand that's called polypharmacy, and there's no studies on that. Okay, I mean, we barely know what a beta blocker does, let alone a beta blocker with the cholesterol, with an antacid, with the sleep medication, with the antidepressant. Just had a gal that she comes in, you know, systemic problems. Nah, it doesn't take any medications at all, none whatsoever. You know, occasionally I'll take the Advil PM, you know, just to sleep, you know, just to get that deep sleep. And I said, okay, well, you know, that actually increases your risk of Alzheimer's. It actually slows down your metabolic response and damages your brain. And I said, does your right hand work? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, tonight I want you to grab that bottle and put it in the trash can. Okay, don't even give it to anyone. You can't take this stuff. It's poisonous. So if you're taking drugs, drugs alter your body communication. Find out why you're taking it. If you have an organ transplant, you got to take them for forever. If you've had somebody remove an organ like a thyroid, you got to take them forever. If not, find out why you're taking it, fix the problem. If your doctor doesn't understand that, fire the doctor. You need healthy fats in order to produce healthy hormones. And this is really, okay, do you want to be shot by a 22 or a 45? What's that, Brandy? You don't want to be shot. Okay, I only gave you 2 answers. Okay, so when I say eliminate poisons, eliminate toxic meats, commercially produced foods, eliminate the pesticide-laden foods, eliminate anything that's poisonous. Okay, no plastic liners, no pesticides, no toxic grains. Just eliminate it. If your grandparents wouldn't recognize it, I mean, if you're reading a label and you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't get it. What can you do to help? And I'm just talking about lupus here, but omega-3s. Omega-3s, phenomenal. Why? Because it's healthy fats. They don't have anti-inflammation properties, even though they kind of do. I want you to rethink that. Anything that has anti-inflammatory properties, what's inflammation? Tissue damage. What's anti-inflammatories do? They suppress that healing. What do the antioxidants do of omega-3s? They allow that tissue damage to heal. They give you the raw materials. When we look at this, Annals of Rheumatic Disease, not only has a therapeutic effect on the disease activity, but also improves endothelial function and reduces oxidative stress, omega-3s. Vitamin D levels, okay, you have to have vitamin D exposure. If you have a skin issue, you've got to supplement. Vitamin D plays a key role in a natural immune modulator. Natural immune modulator. Wait a second, so does that mean that my immune system is amazing and all I got to do is restore communication and then it works? Yeah. Microflora. You have to build the gut flora. This means it's an ecosystem. You can't say, oh yeah, I take a probiotic. Cool, that's one little animal on the Serengeti plain. What do you want? You want everybody there. Okay, so you have to do everything. You got to get different bacteria-containing foods from different sources, and then you're going to build up a healthy microflora. This is so simple. Plant-based, organic, seasonal. It's just what your great-grandparents would have recognized. It can't be that simple, but it is. It is that simple. These diseases are from a poisoning of our population and ignorance, and the solution is just following the way we're designed. Vitamin E in lupus, Natural Products Research Journal. Antioxidants, this reduces oxidative stress because it allows your body to heal. When we put this up, and we say that this is the solution, this is the key, and we have all these different subjects. It can't be that simple, but it really, really is, because the entire system is using this biomedical model that's completely dysfunctional, using this germ theory that's totally dogmatic and dysfunctional, discounting that the body is an intelligent response to this environment. You need proper nerve supply. Absolutely. You need exercise. You need to move every day. Proper nutrition. This means a man makes it, you don't eat it. Organic, seasonal, full of bacteria, good stuff for you. Sufficient rest and prayer and meditation. It can't be that simple. Now, on Extreme Health Academy, this month, we just finished our 14-day challenge. You get 14 days for free. I don't know who came up with the 14 days, but it's a 14-day challenge, and you get 14 days for free to just try it out. Extreme Health Academy. Type in Bergman, all caps, 14. Don't put a space in there, so Bergman, all caps, 14. And you get 14 days to try it. And you're going to see the webinars, the content, the past webinars, I mean, everything. It's really fun. I'm working with Justin and Kate on this. How many people know Justin and Kate? Okay. They're ridiculously cute. Okay, yes? And we got about a month and a half before it's going to be Justin, Kate, and 2 kids. Okay, and Kate is ready. Okay, so go to Extreme Health Challenge. We've got our cruise coming up in March next year. We're going to Cuba and Cozumel, and we've got some amazing speakers lined up, so I really recommend. Sign up for it early because we only have around 75 cabins, and it's going to be a smaller ship, so this is going to be really cool. So if you've ever gone on the other cruises, there was a neat ship. This one's a neat one, but it's more compact. It's called Boutique. And then we got the Dr. John Bergman site. This one is loaded with information. So now, any questions? Good. Yes, ma'am.
Is the 5-gallon water jug the same plastic as in like a little sport bottle?
Okay, I got to repeat everything because I got the only mic. Thank you for being so clear and concise. My sister had this 5-gallon water jug, and it was, okay, no. Is the plastic in a 5-gallon water jug similar to the plastic water bottle? Yeah, usually. And that's why if you have to buy water in a plastic jug, try and transfer it over to glass or stainless steel. Okay, it's going to have less of it. If that plastic water jug is reused, it's going to start to break down a little bit more. If that plastic water jug is left in your car, okay, and it's heated up, and it's really thin plastic, that is a poisonous product. I mean, you got to be, just about dying of thirst in order to balance out the toxicity with the need. Yeah, so it's best to get stainless steel, glass, if you can. I mean, in some circumstances you can't. Okay, like on the cruise ship. My oldest boy went on the cruise ship, and he brought this Berkey filter. That was a little portable one, and that was a brilliant idea. You just take the bottled water, pour it in there, and it cleaned it out. Yes, sir.
It mentions coconut oil, olive oil. Wouldn't the coconut and olives actually be better than such a concentration of oil?
Yeah. We mentioned coconut oil and olive oil. Wouldn't the actual fruit of the coconut and the olive be better? Kind of, except most people are so deficient in healthy fats that it gets it more concentrated, and that's huge. If we had a normal process where people were taking the whole coconut, scraping out the inside, eating that, drinking the milk, and that was like normal for our dietary system, that would be fantastic. Big bowl of Kalamata olives. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is my fast day. Thank you very much for mentioning that. Really appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to lay it out there. What do you add to get rid of extreme excessive hot flashes?
Oh, okay. What do you add to get rid of extreme excessive hot flashes? Realize that hot flashes are the best defense that your body has. Okay, because you've been toxically exposed. Any drug that you take to suppress the hot flashes drives the disease deeper inside, and you're going to have more of a disease expression. For every 1 degree increase in temperature, the speed of your immune system doubles. In our society, menopause is like, oh my God, no, it's like evil. In every other society that the planet's ever had, it's never been a big issue. But now that we're exposed to so many endocrine disruptors, it is a big issue. So what you want to do, you want to strengthen your immune system, do everything that we're talking about. You want to lay towels out because when you're sweating at nighttime, you're going to be sweating off toxins. Go through this process and do everything you can to help your immune system, and you're going to be a heck of a lot better off for it. For every 1 degree increase in temperature, your immune system doubles. This is why when you're at rest, that's when the hot flashes are starting to occur, because that's literally when your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest, digestion, and repair, kicks up. So you want that. You want it to get out there. So hydrate, get all the nutrients in your system, and your body's going to be better for it. You know, 2-3 months, you're going to be done, and you're going to be a lot healthier. Anytime you take something to suppress it, it's not going to be good. But take things to honor that transition and honor that your body's detoxed from years of a toxic environmental exposure, then your body's going to be way healthier. Yes, sir?
The slide that listed non-toxic grains, do you mean organic? I mean inorganic?
No. No, non-toxic grains are stuff that we've been raised with for eons. So you're talking whole sprouted, ancient grains are going to be good. It's the toxic stuff that was built in the 70s that's now sprayed with glyphosates, so it gives up that has, I mean, all the nutrients are destroyed on it, and it's actually poisonous where it damages the gut flora. Yeah, that's it. But sprouted, whole, organic, normal, as long as you have a normal gut or intestinal tract, then you're going to be hunky-dory. Yes, ma'am?
If you have leaky gut, are you supposed to quit the grains too? Because you say plant-based, and I didn't think that separated. But then I listened to a video, and to me... Okay,
now, remember, I have to repeat every question. Okay, let me concise it and see if this is effective for you, okay? If you have a leaky gut, can you eat grains? Okay, would that be okay? Yes. Okay, good. Thanks. Not chip, zip it. Okay, you keep it quiet. Okay. No, you got to heal the gut first. That's why no gluten, no dairy, no grains for about 30 days. You got to deal with the physical, chemical, emotional stress. Heal the gut, and then you can start reintroducing grains. The only reason is because there is gluten proteins on even the ancient grains. It's not poisonous gluten, it's gluten that your body has been raised with. So the poisonous gluten, your body's going to mount a defense. Even the good gluten, if you have a leaky gut, it's going to get in there and the body's still going to mount a defense to it. But the guts heal so fast, you're talking 30 days. Yeah, guts heal really, really quick.
Now, my original question would be...
Okay, remember, I have to repeat everything.
Okay. What do you think of or perceive about Magellan's disease fibers?
Not Magellan's, it's Morgellons. Morgellons. Okay, what do I think or whatever. Okay, what do I think about Morgellons disease, the fibers? The stuff that I've seen, and I've never actually pulled the fibers out of somebody, but when you can look at it, it looks like little fibers growing in these wounds. It really does, okay? And if you look at it, it could be bound up amino acids. I've never seen a study on the fibers. And until I've seen a study on it or pull it out, the people, you got to believe them. I mean, no one's going to make this stuff up in different areas and different communities and have it come up. So you got to listen to people. And so that is something happening. What causes it? You got to figure it's toxicity and deficiency. This is not, a healthy immune system response. This is a toxic deficient environment. And then, yes, sir.
I've heard polyunsaturated fatty acids are good for you, but you said saturated. So
oh, you thought polyunsaturated fats were good for you? And there are a lot of polyunsaturated fats that are good for you, but a diet high in polyunsaturated fats, like what we have, can develop poisonous aspects to it. It's like we need a balance of omega-3s and 6s. In our society, a lot of manufacturing processes in animals are very, very high in omega-6s, and that can create a toxic inflammatory effect. Saturated fats are really, really good for you. They've been demonized by a lot of people because, well, originally, we can't grow coconuts in America, so the coconut oil was demonized to say, oh no, it's bad, switch to this healthy margarine. Okay, however, margarine is toxic and, it damages tissue, it's just poisonous. So now the real science is coming out, but there's still some holdover people like the American Heart Association that are, you know, they're like the 12-year-old in the back. Don't tell me it's bad. Okay, they don't want to hear the information that saturated fats are essential. It can actually help with Alzheimer's, brain damage, autoimmune conditions, that you actually need healthy saturated fats. The American Heart Association is choosing not to listen to that. Okay, next week, more on hormones. Thank you very much.